I would like to start by asking, I say the base for all this, Anders Delamotte, the author, of course, we start, well, furthest to the left on the stage, or your stage right. This series takes place in the northwestern region of Skåne, Scania, in southern Sweden. I know you have a relationship to that specific area. Could you describe what you wanted to capture when you got this idea of writing this book series?
Well, yes, prior to this book, I've written 5 sort of fast-paced thrillers, and I knew I wanted to write something that was a bit more slow crime, where the pace wasn't the driving engine of the story. And after thinking a lot about it, I realized at the same time we sold my childhood home, the farm where I grew up in northwestern Skåne. And that set a lot of things in motion in my mind. You know, there's a little bit of nostalgia, of course, and also a bit of melancholy. You know, when you finally are separated from your childhood home, or you know the room where you grow up, that's where your childhood ends, really. Even if you're in your 40s, if you can't go back to your parents' house anymore, you know, you're no longer a child, right? So I sort of based the story on that feeling of sadness or melancholy, but also on, I think, all families, we have these little secrets, right? Things that we sort of just accept when we're young, when we're children. That's just the way it is, right? And then when you grow up and you turn around and you look at your childhood as an adult and you realize, why? Why didn't anyone ask this question? Why is it like this? I think most of you have something like this in your families. I'm sure you do, right? So the whole seasons quartet that started out with End of Summer is really based on being an adult, turning around and looking back at your childhood with the eyes of an adult and starting to questioning certain truths, really. And then I just realized I have to write it, put it really geographically in Skåne, very close to where I grew up. I made up this town called Räfting in this area, and I was so happy that we decided to actually shoot the whole location there, right? So this farm you'll see, it's next to my parents' farm. It's literally there, right? So I think the whole location really played a big part in the whole storytelling as well. So it really tied everything together for me.
Let's hand over the mic. We have a mic ready to Björn. What captured your idea in terms of turning this into actually a cinematic experience, into series? Was it the environment, the specific location? What was the spark that ignited your idea of turning it into visual storytelling?
Well, we started talking with you about the story early on, and actually when we started we didn't know, is this a movie or is it a television series, what's it going to be? But when I read the book, there's certain very cinematic things in it that I enjoyed. I'm very much a Hitchcock fan and love the kind of, you know, vertigo and that element of there's a character showing up in the story and you're not really sure, is this something supernatural? Is this a ghost coming back, or what's really going on? And I thought that lent itself very well to a story, or to a cinematic story. And I remember reading the book, and we were going to have a meeting soon after, and I read the last part. And you build up the story so well, and it's so intriguing, and I'm so into it. And I constantly, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, he will never come up with a satisfying ending to this. It's impossible. And then you nailed it. And I was so happy because I could meet Anders and really be honest, saying that I love the story. Yeah. So that was the beginning of it. Another thing was that Stefan and I, when we've been writing a couple of series, and usually we make this distinction between open and closed drama. You know, does the audience know everything that's going on, or is there a secret somewhere? Usually when you do a whodunit, there's a big secret, and it's very easy to get into this kind of story where you just have a main character going around finding answers to questions, and nothing really happens here and now. It's all about what happened back then. But in this story, since Vera's story is about going back to her own family, and so it's very much things that happened here and not only things that happened in the past. So that was intriguing to be able to do a whodunit, but still it wasn't this usual whodunit where you gather everybody up in the end and find out who was the murderer. There's so much going on in the story here and now.
Right. Henrik, when it was time to turn this into an actual film, in this case it's TV series, you and Jens, you discussed, of course, the aesthetics, the kind of style you wanted, the kind of mood, the tempo, the pacing. What kind of references did you have when you started out?
Yes, so Jens Jonsson and I directed the series together. And yeah, we wanted to try to find a strong mood for it, and the most obvious reference or inspiration was the series I Know This Much Is True by Derek Cianfranchi, I think his name is, with Mark Ruffalo from 2020. A great series, very dark and depressive. And it was filmed on 35 millimeters. And so when it comes to cinematography, we really like that feeling of film. We couldn't afford film on 35, but we tried to create that kind of feeling with, you know, kind of soft feeling to it, with a lot of nuances in the pictures. And we also talk a lot about films from the 70s.
Yeah, you mentioned Hitchcock as well.
Yeah, Hitchcock, I mean, it's a suspense story, so we were inspired by all kinds of suspense, of course, but Hitchcock was one, absolutely. And we also discussed a lot about movies, old movies from the 70s, with using zoom lenses and maybe linger a little bit longer on things, and having shots that, you know, not just cutting back and forth all the time. And we were also inspired by Jan Troell and his kind of sensual relation to nature. And so we tried to really make this landscape come alive, where we are in Skåne.
Yeah.
And
as a character in its own.
yeah,
Oh.
and also since the mystery is there, the boy disappeared, no one knows what happened. So the landscape in itself, the nature it's you know, it's part of the story.
Mm.
And so it's exciting just to watch, you know, zooming in on some trees for a while.
Yeah, sure.
Or it maybe could be. Yeah. But we kind of like to tell the story in a kind of not a slow way, but a thorough way. Maybe it's a better word. You know, like maybe, you know, like when someone arrives, a lot of time you cut away things like that. Someone arrives in a car, get out of the car, close the door,
Yeah.
walk up to the house.
You kept that.
Yeah, we kept, not always, but you know, then you can use the sound as well, you know, closing that door, walking on the gravel, or what it is. You know, the sound from that, you can hear bees in the air, things like that, the trees, leaves, all that stuff that makes you feel that you're really at this place.
Yeah.
It's kind of a strong presence.
And another very strong presence is, of course, that you're speaking in the southern dialect, Skånska. And Julia, I know your original dialect is Skånska. How was it to you know, go into this kind of character and using your, I don't know, mother tongue, so to speak, your first?
It was actually pretty strange, because I've been acting for, I don't know, I was in my first movie when I was 11 years old, and I've been working since then. And I realized that I only used my own like mother language or accent maybe twice. So it was actually quite difficult, because when I started working with the lines, I realized all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, this is just me. It was too personal in one way. So I kind of had to like relearn how to use my own accent. But I could also, I figured out a way to, since my character is kind of running from her past and going away from her hometown, moving up to Stockholm, and in one way she's leaving her past in also like creating a new accent for, she adapts like Stockholm, which is like average Swedish normal accent, not the farmer accent that I have. And it was really fun to play around with that. Yeah, and also mix it with like phone calls. If someone calls from home, she goes back to the Skåne accent, and yeah. So I could really use that for my character, and yeah, it was a useful tool. But it was challenging at first, but but also of course felt like home in many ways. It was so much fun to shoot back in Skåne.
And if you're talking about Per, the producer, one of the producers, yes. How come you become attached to the project? What did you find in this mood, environment, and this concept that attracted your attention to actually go in and make this thing?
I can tell you.
Yeah.
So, in short, it's not rare in the business to read books and turn them into movies.
Quite common, yeah.
Or series. And as a viewer, you sometimes feel, well, that was time lost.
Yeah.
So from a producer perspective, together with Björn and Stefan at Harmonica Films, for us to read something that is rare, like Anders' book, that is both, and you will see if we were able to turn this into a series, but from a book perspective, it was something that is a thrilling story from an established thriller writer, but also so apparently is a moving personal story, which has to do with, of course, upbringing and where you're from, but also this tone that Anders spoke about, this melancholy tone to it, which I guess has to do with that life, spoiler alert, life ends, and, stuff, wow.
Those things are,
Yeah, but so, I mean, all that combined is like, hey, we can do something here that if we play our cards correctly, should turn into a strong TV series, if that's an answer to your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I very much appreciate it. I won't spoil anything, but the mood is something that it's built around this series. It has a specific touch, and I remember this other series also took place in Skåne a couple of years back. The Trace of a Murder or something. We also used the Scania dialect, which creates a special, audio feeling, audiovisual milieu atmosphere that actually adds something extra. Shall we conclude by speaking to you again, Julia, about how did you feel about speaking in your we call it your mother tongue, right? Okay, it's fine. Yeah. How does that affect your behavior, your body movements? It's a different thing, different dialects, different speed. It affects you, right?
It does. In some way, it erases a second layer for me, because my parents are from Stockholm, both of them, so I think that's why I can adapt into the Stockholm lingo quite easily. But it definitely erases some kind of layer or shield that maybe can make me feel more grounded in a way when I work like that, and also less of a feeling of pretending, which I know acting is all about pretending, but I think in some way I feel more free. I guess it's kind of like playing your own instrument in some way. I don't know. Is that an answer to your question?
That's a good answer, definitely.
Yeah.
So we have to wrap this thing up. I know I will hand over. Oh, you have a mic already, Per. So I know you would like to say some words to close.
Shall I sit?
I don't know. If you want to stand up, you're welcome to stand up.
I would love to stand up.
I know we're talking about adding another layer of people on stage, so go ahead, Per.
I will do that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anders. Okay, so while I'm standing up, there will be an opportunity for a few people who have been involved in this show to come up on the stage. There will be a photo taken, and I will do some shout-outs for you when you have come up. So if you who are to be a part of this, come up on the stage, please.
Come up.
Figure this one out. And while you're doing that, I just want to say thank you to the people who have made this possible. Basically, the organizations who have done so has already been mentioned, Film i Skåne, SF Studios, and others. Ingen nämnd, ingen glömd, as they say in Swedish. But I also want to make a special thank you to Sky Showtime, Kai and Fredrik, Kate and company, who will show this. If that wasn't said, it's on December 26th on Sky Showtime. Please sign up. And the more you do it, the higher likeliness that we will do a season 2. Okay, so before the shout out for these nice people, I also want to say that you know the most important people are you, who came here on a weekday night seeing 2 episodes. We hope you will not feel that your time is not well spent. Fingers crossed for me. And so basically here are actors, directors, more actors, writers, many writers. Actors, originators, actors, and well, you know, producers, executive producers. We are so happy that you came here. Could you please give a big round of applause for yourselves and these people? Thank you.